is time to take you between the lines. Your host, Eric Edmondson, is getting ready to bring you stats and analysis from around the sporting world with a special guest on 98.7 for radio.
Hello and welcome into another great episode of Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio WPCZ LP FM at the top of the hour. It is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, and boy, oh boy, we got one heck of a show for you. But before we get into any of that, let's go and hit some top headlines from around the sporting world. Chip Kelly is leaving the Ohio State, the champion Ohio State, to become the new offensive coordinator with the Raiders under Pete Carroll, picking up that same job that he had with Ohio State. And briefing a little bit of our NBA talk before we get into the real NBA talk. De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. That three-team trade includes, of course, Fox to the Spurs, Zach LaVine to the Kings, and Kevin Huerter to the Chicago Bulls. Pat Hoiberg, umpire for the MLB, has been fired for having a shared betting account. Now, MLB, if you want to fire these people for betting, I understand that. Should they be sports betting on these games? No, they should not. However, you cannot have every single bit of your advertising plastered with sports betting and not expect somebody to do with it. I used this analogy before, but if you are constantly advertising this new restaurant, if your company's advertising this new restaurant, you can't get mad at your employee for going to said restaurant. It's your image. Are you saying that betting's bad and it shouldn't be part of your image? I don't know. But, folks, this is the real topic. It's the real topic of the day. We know what it is. We know what we're talking about this afternoon. Let's go ahead and get into our first topic of the afternoon. At 12:12, February 2nd, Shams Charania posted a tweet that shocked the world. Luka Doncic is going to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis. First off, what are the Mavs doing? What are the Mavs doing? I mean, listen to this. You don't describe this trade as Shams does if it's a regular trade.
This deal materialized in the shadows. This came out of nowhere. This is maybe the most stunning trade, definitely that I've been a part of in recent NBA history, as far as it was never clearly out there. And you saw two teams in Rob Pelinka with the Lakers, Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison there, doing this deal. And I'm told Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, the players, coaches, a lot of people on both sides with the Mavericks and Lakers had no idea. I can assuredly tell you.
No idea. They have no idea. The trade emerged out of the shadows? The shadows? What? Where did this trade come from? And as reports say, this was a Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka conversation only. Nico Harrison didn't talk to any of his staff other than his owner, because that's his boss. And we'll get into that in a minute. But we do, on the show, we look at what is on the court, how this affects the court, but we have to recognize that this is a very odd trade. We are going to be talking about a little bit of that stuff, because this is a hard thing to do. There's obviously some culture. There's obviously some conditioning concerns, obviously, on the Maverick side. And it's absolutely insane. I mean, listen to this. This was from an ESPN game between St. Mary's and Gonzaga on the night of.
Dave, we're just receiving word of a massive trade in the NBA. The Lakers have traded Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Luka Doncic.
What?
In a three-team deal. You can listen to that on SportsCenter later on tonight with Kevin Connors and Amina Smith after this game. They'll have
The announcer says it all there. What? Really? This has the entire sports world shocked, but this was a defensive move for the Mavericks. This is what they said. Look, Anthony Davis, 104 defensive rating for his career. He's an all-world defender. He's been on several all-NBA defensive teams. 499 rebounds, 54 steals, 90 blocks. I believe this season is what that is. He's averaging about a block a game or so. But the thing with Davis is that, look, if you want to go all in on defense, that's fine. If you want to trade for a new stud, that's fine. Anthony Davis is a stud. I think there's a lot of false media around there saying Anthony Davis is not a stud. Guy's good. Guy's good at what he does. However, health is a problem for Davis. Always has been. So Why are you putting this guy in this position to lead this team? Not necessarily. Dallas obviously has stars around him, but this is one of your big guys. And again, I have no idea. We have no idea what the Mavericks are doing. Wow. We're going to throw this to break, and when we come back, we're going to have Grant Prather, the station sports manager for 98.7 Roar Radio, on to talk about the NBA trade deadline and, well, this trade. So keep it right here on Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Evanson, your host, here with you, and across from me is Grant Prather. Grant, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm confused, but I think I'm doing good.
We're all confused. If you just joining us now, we're talking about the Luka Doncic trade. We're going to break that down just momentarily, but I do want to bring up, this was from O'Shea Jackson's Twitter. He was in the middle of a wrestling podcast because this was on the Night of the Royal Rumble that they did this, but this was the fan reaction.
Oh my God.
He's doing something.
The Lakers just got Luka Doncic.
No, they didn't.
We traded Anthony Davis.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You're lying.
And you obviously, you folks can't see the video, but O'Shea, he looked like he's seen a ghost. He's looking at the camera, wide-eyed, eyes as big as saucers, because the Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Keebler, and Markieff Morris for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick.
It's middle schooler.
Middle schooler. The Jazz also snuck into this trade. They got Jalen Hood, 2025 Clippers second, and a 2025 Mavs second. And you know what? Let's get into it, Grant. This was said by Nico Harrison that this was a defensive-minded move, which, you know what, it is a defensive player, but you're still giving up a star at 25.
Yeah, and you're looking at, the Mavericks, you had Jalen Brunson, Kristaps Porzingis, and Luka Doncic 3 years ago. They're all gone. The only player from that roster is Dwight Powell. They have Maxi Kleber at their 4 or their 5, which now has moved over to Anthony Davis, but they didn't have any defense in the interior. Luka wasn't a liability, besides with the conditioning issues, which we'll get more into that. But, I guess it makes sense defensively, but you're kind of throwing away your future going into a win-now mode with just Kyrie Irving. That's it.
Absolutely, and, this was a thought to win now. Look, Davis wants to win now. I understand that. But, again, no players knew about this. And I understand if Davis wants to win now, and he probably maybe have expressed that at some point. I would still say his best chance to win now is with the Lakers, even if they have to overcome the Nuggets. So him staying with the Lakers would have made more sense for him personally, and for the Lakers if they had his best benefit in mind.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Lakers have a good future, but they're also in a sort of a win-now mode. I think they're middle of the pack in the West right now, but you still have Dalton Connect, Austin Reeves, LeBron, obviously. You still have those pieces in place, but, the move only helps the Lakers. It gives the Dallas maybe 1 or 2 years of a window, but that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're talking about a lot about win now. This is what GM Nico Harrison had to say about the win now mentality right now in Dallas with Coach J. Kidd by his side.
Well, I think the long term is the time frame. I think he fits our time frame. If you pair him with Kyrie and the rest of the guys, he fits right along with our time frame to win now and win in the future. And the future to me is 3-4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, I don't know. I don't think they probably bury me and Jay by then.
And again, this was a trade that materialized, quoted, out of the shadows. That's from Shams. And he didn't even tell Jay Kidd about this. Jay Kidd lost one of his, no, not one of, his guy. Lost his guy. Now, he's getting a new guy in Davis. And again, we already said this in the open. Great defensive guy, 104 rating for his career, multiple NBA all-team selections. If you're looking for a defensive guy, it's the right key for the job, Grant.
Yeah, right. But, you're going to have your defensive guy for 3 or 4 good years. And like he said, that's not he said it's a future move, but I don't think it is because Luka's 25. AD is, I think, 31 or 32. So that's 7 years of a prime. And AD is, he's not one-dimensional. He's a post scorer. It'll pair well with Kyrie, but Kyrie's that same age. So this is only going to work for 2 years. Luka and the Lakers, that's going to work for probably 10 years.
Absolutely. And, and that's the thing, too, is that this is something that is, especially if you're thinking defense now, who is the best Maverick of all time?
Dirk.
Dirk.
Yep. You don't need defense.
You don't need defense.
Dirk's a point guard version Luka is a point guard version of Dirk, in my opinion.
Exactly. Now, let's get on to the winners of this trade because we talked about Dallas enough. L.A. What a steal for L.A. Are you serious?
Please.
Luka's a stud, man. This is just in 2024. 28 points a game, 55 or .55 2-point percentage. He's hitting half of the buckets he's making in the arc.
And they're worried about his conditioning.
And they're worried about it. Listen, this might be a little off-brand, but if there is a guy who, if you're worried about his conditioning, but he carried you to the finals on 2 bad knees last year, I don't care about his conditioning. And I'm going to be honest with you.
And he's still putting up those same numbers, the same scoring numbers.
He didn't change.
Yep.
He did not change.
Yep.
He is going to be another top finalist for an MVP this year.
Easily.
Maybe not this year, because there's been some craziness around the league.
And he's been hurt.
But he's going to be up there.
Yeah.
Because he's still going to finish, because we still got a good bit of season to play. Now, something else that they are worried about a little bit with him is Luka's not a defender, but that's just not the player he is. That's not the game of NBA that we play anymore. Not everyone is a defender. But still, I would much rather have the offense.
Yeah, exactly. Especially like you said in today's league, when a lot of players' offensive games is bumping into people, getting that contact, going to the free throw line. Luka is efficient with his free throws. He weighs 270 pounds. That helps. He's like something like the 7th or 8th heaviest player in the NBA now. Does it really matter if you're still putting up 25, 30 points a night? I don't think so.
Absolutely. It's just, man, we are just still in shock from this. Here's another clip from Nico Harrison regarding, because obviously we talk about these athletes on the shows, but these athletes play for the people watching them, the fans, and Dallas lost one of their stars.
I'm sorry they're frustrated, but it's something that we believe in as an organization. It's going to make us better. We believe that it sets us up to win not only now but also in the future. And when we win, I believe the frustration will go away.
When we win, the frustration will go away. I'm sure it will. I'm sure when you do win, the frustration will go away. But to follow up that trade, they lost by 77 to the Cavs. So we're going to throw it to a quick break, then bring it back with some more NBA trade deadline talk. Keep it right here on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Edmondson, your host, here with you. Alongside me is Grant Prather, the station manager or sports manager here on the station of 98.7 Roar Radio. I got all that jumbled together. But we said we're going to talk about some more NBA trade deadline in general. We did mention at the top of the show we have another trade to talk about. De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, Zach LaVine to the Kings, Kevin Huerter to the Bulls. Obviously, big winner there are the Spurs, and they're kind of scary. Who do you stop here?
Man, I mean, look, De'Aaron Fox, Bailey Wiseman told one of our basketball players, he told me yesterday that De'Aaron Fox is one of the best pick-and-roll guards in the league. Pair that with a 7'4" first overall pick, alien, Hall of Famer. That's insane.
And you also have veteran presence on the court to match with it. Spurs are sneaky.
And one of the best rookies in the league, too, in Stephon Castle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say the Spurs are winning it all here.
No.
Don't want to say that. But to come out of the rut that they've been in, much needed. You know, obviously, I don't think anyone realizes yet, but we are in Wemby's world right now. We're just not living in it yet. It's going to happen, guys. Wemby is an absolute stud. But briefly recapping the Luka trade, Luka Doncic, along with other players heading to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis. Obviously, Davis and Luka being the two big ones there. And you know what? Other teams are selling. We talked about it briefly. I want to open up with the Raptors. They have a lot of veteran contracts expiring, especially Olenek. He's
Olenek.
Olenek,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
He's not on an expiring deal, but he definitely could help a team, especially with 1 year of control left for him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think you can throw Dallas in that mix, but there's a lot of teams that could use a 4 or 5 with a little bit of extra shooting presence. Because he's been a go-to role player for however long he's been in the league. I mean, he's stayed consistent his entire career. He's not underrated, but I would say he's gone under the radar a lot.
Absolutely. And the biggest one, Grant, on my mind is where the heck is Jimmy Butler going?
Man.
Because look, Butler, he's still suspended indefinitely from the Miami Heat. And you know what? I just don't get why the Miami Heat didn't build around him when they had the chance, or why he hasn't been moved yet instead of him just being routinely suspended. They were in the talks late for De'Aaron Fox. I I heard something a couple last week around Thursday that De'Aaron Fox was going to San Antonio. That did not materialize until over the weekend. But now that they're out on Fox, Miami has to, I guess.
Yeah, they obviously they have to deal him because if you're paying him to do nothing, there's no point in that. The only issue is there's a lot of teams in the league that already have a scoring 2, a scoring 3, just like Jimmy Butler is. You look at the Kings, they have DeMar DeRozan, same type of thing. I mean, people don't really. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could use him, like some rebuilding teams to build around him, but he is getting older, so I think any team that's going to pick him up is going to lose the deal, in my opinion.
He's getting older and he wants to win.
Yep.
That's something that's been on Jimmy Butler's radar ever since he left Minnesota. Is that he wants to win.
Yeah.
He's tired of losing. Those are some that hit my radar. Grant, what are you thinking on your side?
Well, I mean, we got to look at Kevin Durant. That's the main one. I think that now has the buzz. The Golden State Warriors have been literally calling every single star around, and I think he is probably the main landing spot. There's a couple other people. Brandon Ingram is in that mix. Paul George is in that mix. I think the Hawks could land either of them realistically, but Kevin Durant is probably the main guy that you're going to look for. I mean, anywhere, probably going to go to Golden State.
Golden State, you think?
Yeah. I hope not, but
the reunion. You mentioned the Hawks, and I just got a comment from the Instagram page on so that's EOTC Between the Lines on Instagram. But I just got a comment from DV Camfort. Said not the Hawks when I asked what teams are going to make a big move at the deadline. Grant, I know you're a Hawks fan. I am a suffering Hawks fan. I'm kind of indifferent on the team at this point. But you did mention that the Hawks they are in a unique position where they have Bogdanovich, who he's getting paid a lot of money to kind of be injured, which is very unfortunate. Of course, we wish the health for everybody. But Bogey has been very injured at various points in his career, and he's getting paid a lot of money. So in a scenario, do you see where Atlanta really just makes one move in the deadline, and it is just moving on from Bogdanovich?
It's got to be Bogdanovich, maybe a couple late round picks, because they already have DeAndre Hunter to shoot in the outside. Like I said, like we were saying, paying him a lot to be injured, kind of like Joel Embiid type of thing. But I really don't think he needs to stay in Atlanta. I think there's a lot of other places that could use some outside scoring purely, not really mid range in the interior. He's good at mid range, but they definitely need to deal him and then maybe pick up someone like Paul George or Brandon Ingram.
Absolutely. Well, I was hoping we would get a buzz on one of our phones while talking about the NBA trade deadline, but I guess we'll have to wait on until Thursday when the deadline officially strikes. We're going to throw it to one more quick break, and then we're going to come back to briefly talk about the big dance, the big game, because, listen, it's the week of the Super Bowl, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk about it very briefly. Keep it right here on Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Between the Lines on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Evanson, your host, here with you. Alongside me is Grant Prather, sports manager here on 98.7 Roar Radio. And Grant, we just wrapped up our NBA trade deadline talk. We're going to move into a little bit of talk now. It is a little bit off topic because we were talking about the NBA. We talked about the NBA today, but we would be remiss if we didn't mention Super Bowl LIX.
Yeah, the biggest sporting event of the year. It's the week of it. So, you got to. This is a rematch of obviously 2 years ago, which, by the way, was a good game besides that pass interference call. But this is a game I've thought about it over the last couple of days, and I'm realizing that I don't really care who wins. Normally, I'm a certified Chiefs hater, but DeAndre Hopkins is on the Chiefs and Saquon Barkley is on the Eagles. Those are two guys I think both deserve rings because they've kind of been stuck in a bad spot for so long. So either way, it's going to work.
Yeah, both have really paid their dues. Hopkins especially, I think. He's not necessarily been ring chasing, but he's definitely bounced around a good bit. Saquon's going to be super fun to watch. Now we broke this down a little bit last week on the show with Simon Johnstone about what both of these teams bring to the table. Obviously, the Eagles are going to bring an enhanced rush game, an insane rush game, because not even just with Saquon, but you also have Jalen Hurts to pair with him as well. So it's not just a Saquon thing. But I don't know. The Chiefs' defense, while it hasn't been world-beating this year, it has certainly been pretty solid.
It's been solid enough to get them 15-2 when they didn't even score 30 points in the regular season. That's what I'd say. Yeah. Spags does a great job play calling. I mean, you looked at that blitz that he threw at Josh Allen on 4th down in the AFC chip game. It's going to be a good look because, the Eagles don't pass the ball as much. So how is he going to send blitzes? How is he going to drop into coverage? How is he going to deal with the best running back in the league?
And that's another thing too. I've never been big on Jalen Hurts. I've never been on the Jalen Hurts train, frankly. So I'm interested to see how he's going to do in this game because last game against the Commanders, you said it before, Commanders don't have the best defense, but 246 passing yards for Hurts, which he hadn't done in a long time in regards to the season. So I don't know what avenue they're going to go down. Obviously, Kellen Moore's, he's done good enough to get his team to the Super Bowl, right? Get his OC to the doing good enough as an OC to get to the Super Bowl. But I think the Eagles are definitely going to be run dominant, and it's all about how they're going to stop them. Now, what do the Eagles have to do on defense? It's kind of set it and forget it. They are really they are a generational defense this year. They are outstanding.
And the Georgia Bulldogs are loving it. I think about half their team, that's Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, all those players, they're all from Georgia, and I think that environment that Georgia's defense has really helped. And I mean, they just do everything. They get the secondary is amazing. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, No Play Slay, all those guys, Reed Blankenship. They just have everything on defense. And like you said it and forget it. Just do what you need to do. Let the offense do their work. That's how you're going to end up winning this game.
They absolutely do. And I mentioned this last week. I think this game is not really going to be decided until the 4th quarter. I don't think either team can run away with it. Last time these two faced off, Kansas City, while there was a chance for the Eagles to get back into it, Kansas City kind of ran away from it, I believe, like halfway through the 3rd quarter, coming out of half. And that's another thing, too, about Kansas City that we saw against Buffalo. Now, granted, Buffalo's defense is not on the same level. In fact, it might be 2 tiers below of what the Eagles are throwing out there. But they did a fantastic job of burning the clock with their long passes, their runs, and they did a fantastic job of just marching down the field. Whereas I don't know if the Eagles, I think their secret weapon all year has been time of possession. They've been able to control that against their opponents. I don't know if the Chiefs really conform to that rule.
Well, I think so. I think I saw a stat somewhere where they said they were leading the league, or maybe 2nd or 3rd in the league, in long drives, like 7-8 minute drives. Because if you watch the way they play offense, it's check down after check down after check down, and then they maybe throw a 15-yard pass and it's back to
Brady.
checkdowns. Yeah, literally Tom Brady. It was post 40-year-old Tom Brady, but. Yeah, I think it'll definitely be based on time of possession. You and I were talking about it. The Eagles are the number 1 ranked defense in the league in yards per game because of time of possession. So that could be a factor, as well as how long each team's going to hold the ball, how methodical one of the drives are going to be. I think this is going to be based on who gets to stop first.
Who gets to stop first? So let's be hypothetical. Let's have an imaginary scenario here. We're starting off the game in the 1st quarter, and we have that first long drive from the Chiefs. Can the Falcons? The Falcons aren't in the Super Bowl. Goodness gracious, wrong birds. The Eagles. I don't think the Falcons will make a Super Bowl in a minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
The Eagles. They're in the red zone. Defense-wise, they've been fantastic. Can they make that stop though? Because here's the thing. Say what you will about Kansas City, and this is a moniker that reigns true for all sports. Great teams find a way to win. It does not matter what you throw on them. Does not matter who is covering who. Great teams find a way to win. And I think the secret weapon there is when all the receivers go up front, they're all ready to catch, Mahomes just scurries away.
Yep.
So how do you stop the Mahomes?
Outside rush, you have some of the best outside linebackers in the league. And, I mean, I thought about it with any other team. If you don't send at least some sort of corner blitz, some sort of interesting scheme at Patrick Mahomes, you can't rush for it and sit in his zone in the red zone. He's going to scramble. He's going to find someone else or just do his little duck walk over to a first down. Anyway, he's going to get those yards. So I think if the Eagles can hold them to maybe at least 2 field goals in the red zone, they'll have a really good shot.
2 field goals in the red zone. That's a really good point. Now, on the offensive side for the Eagles, the Chiefs' game plan with Spags, it's the most obvious thing ever. You are fine getting beat in the air. You cannot let their best guy beat you. You cannot let Saquon break loose for a 60-yard run. However, this is not a normal running back we're talking about here. This is Saquon Barkley, who just had one of the best seasons ever.
And one of the best offensive lines we've ever seen, too. What is it? Let me see. Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Jordan Mailata, and I'm blanking on the last one. I think it's a right guard. Mekhi Becton. There we go. I got all of it right.
There you go.
Former Jets legend. But this offense is one of the most insane ground games probably I've ever seen in my lifetime. Just overall balance. It hurts at quarterback, tush push, Barkley, everybody, even their backup running backs are good.
And that's another thing we need to mention, tush push.
Yep.
We saw it work against Washington. I don't know. And here's the thing. I don't know if they're going to try it too much against the Chiefs because in my opinion, when you get to the tush push area, you get to an area of desperation. You don't want to give Kansas City a mental edge because I've been critical of Nick Sirianni on here before. I'm still critical of Nick Sirianni. He's done good to get his team to the Super Bowl. You don't want to dance that dance with Andy Reid because he'll eat you alive.
And not on fourth down, too.
Especially not on fourth down.
You can do the 3rd and inches, 3rd and 1. You can do that all day. But they have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, a great defensive line with a lot of – I mean, Chris Jones is 30 years old. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the year. He's seen that his entire year this year. So I don't think you can keep spamming it like we saw some like the Bills did. You can't keep doing that all day and expect it to work against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I can see in my mind on the Chiefs 40 them trying a tush push on 4th and inches, and it does not go well, and the Chiefs go ahead and convert that. I can see the vision in my head. Now, I don't like predicting sports, but it's the big game, and it's fun to predict sports. Grant, who do you got?
Man, I do think the Chiefs are gonna pull off the three-peat. Give me a like 24-22 type of game. Mid-20s, low 20s for each.
I completely agree. Chiefs three-peat. Thanks for tuning in on Between the Lines, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in this week on Between the Lines. Tune in next week for another great guest and another great show. Check out the show on Instagram and YouTube at EOTC Between the Lines. Until next time, everyone, stay safe, make good decisions, watch sports, and as always, have a good one.